The members, as you know, we were in recess from this morning's meeting.
Thank you.
We have
Thanks again for the help today.
before us House File 1054, the bill that's generally known as the marriage bill, with Representative Clark as the chief author. And members, there are no amendments. And the reason that it was referred to us today is the fiscal note. So if possible, what I'd like to do is keep the discussion on the fiscal note, and we do have MMB present to help us develop an understanding of the fiscal note. There are two areas that we probably need to talk some about. One is CGIP, and MMB will be here to comment on that, and then the other part is the increase in the number of marriage licenses and what impact that has as well. In that case, on the general fund, CGIP would have no impact on the general fund per se, but we'll be hearing from them shortly. So maybe if they could come down to the front table. I think there are two of you that are here. Nathan, is it Morocco, and Michelle Weber? And Representative Clark, are you prepared to make a motion on the bill?
I think so. I had the motion right here. Well, Mr. Chairman, I think the motion says that I ask for the bill to be passed the second engrossment and re-referred to the House floor.
Yeah, I can help a bit. Representative Clark moves that House File 1054, first engrossment, be recommended to pass and placed on the general register.
General register. Thank you.
And Representative Clark.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief because I know we are here to talk about the fiscal. No, but I will just say briefly that this is the bill that expands the freedom to marry to same-sex couples and protects religious freedom in the process. And so we'll go to the fiscal note. You already laid the groundwork for that, the two areas where there is some impact, and I guess I'll turn to the MMB folks to go through that, talk about the policy and the actual numbers.
Maybe we can, and everybody has the fiscal note in their packet, so maybe if one of you, let's kind of divide it into the two parts, could comment first on CGIP and then on the impact on the licensure. Those were the two key components of the fiscal note, and it looks like Mr. Morocco, you're going to be the one that will start the process on the fiscal note. Mr. Morocco.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Nathan Morocco. I'm the director of the Employee Insurance Division at Minnesota Management and Budget, and I oversee the State Employee Group Insurance Program. The fiscal note, as you have in front of you, has a total of $631,000 in fiscal year 14 and $688,000 in fiscal year 15 and in the outlying years. So the methodology that we used is laid out in the fiscal note, so I'm not sure if there's any specific questions about why the cost might be there or what it was based on, but essentially we would anticipate adding additional members into the state employee group insurance program. Those members would have an additional cost, and so this fiscal note is reflective of that. It's similar to the kinds of increases that we saw back in 2003 during the brief period of time in which CGIP had some domestic partner benefits for approximately 9 to 12-month period of time. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
And I guess one of the questions then would be how those costs would be covered.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, essentially the State Employee Group Insurance Program is in essence aggregating the total increase that each of the agencies will incur as a result of the passage of this bill. So by that I mean that we charge a premium to the agencies and to state employees, and those premiums are then paid by those entities. So to the extent that you are expanding coverage, that will require us to increase the premiums, and then those agencies and the individual employees will then be responsible for paying that increase. So that's what this is reflecting, is the employer or the state's portion, or in other words, each agency's additional contribution that will be necessary in order to cover the additional dependents.
Okay, and it's my understanding, maybe Mr. Marks can comment, we need not, with what was just appropriate any additional funds. Is that correct, Mr. Mark?
Mr. Chair, the decision would be, I guess, that the agencies would cover that cost. At this point, we don't know whether the cost would be general fund, any other particular fund. We also don't know which agencies. So it's basically, this would have to be handled within the agency budgets.
Okay.
Mr.
Morocco.
Chair, historically, the CGIP has been viewed as being roughly 32% general fund and 68% all other funds. That's typically how, how the agencies pay for their portion of the premium.
Okay, any discussion on the CGIP part of it? Representative Abler.
So we're looking at 114 more people is what the bottom line is, Mr. Morocco? Okay.
Yeah, that
Thank
was
you.
the estimate in the fiscal note, correct?
It's really actually quite interesting how they got to that number if you're a wonk on reading math derivations, so I would suggest that it's great.
Okay, Representative McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Morocco, isn't it possible, didn't we save a couple $1 million a biennium more than we forecast when we did the dependent coverage evaluation or audit? Is it possible that there's more money from those savings than what this would ever cost?
Mr. Morocco.
Mr. Chair and Representative McNamara, as you know, the dependent audit isn't complete. We came in roughly about where we had expected, but we are still actually fulfilling the audit requirements, so we don't know what the total cost or savings will be until roughly midsummer.
Just a follow-up.
One of the things I might just share with the committee is that I did check today in terms of how many dollars are basically in CGIP, or what the cost of the program is in 2013. Let me put it that way. It was $676 million is what was brought in from all income sources for the state insurance program. So when we talk about the 100 and some, that would be a relatively small number. Representative McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Morocco, I'm trying to understand. You just said something different than the way I recollect it. I thought about 1.7 million was booked for the savings in the CGIP audit, and I thought the estimate was substantially more than that, or at least more than that. And wouldn't it be more than what the fiscal note for this bill is? I thought the savings exceeded the 1.7 by a couple $1 million.
Mr. Morocco.
Mr. Chair and Representative McNamara, I think what you're referring to is that the savings in general were greater, but the general fund portion of those savings was roughly 1.7 million. It sort of gets to the point that the chair had made in terms of where our funds come from. So when we save $4 million, 32% of that is roughly general fund savings, 68% is going to be other fund savings, and so that's where there might be some mixing up of the total savings versus what was actually booked as part of the legislative process.
Representative McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Morocco, thank you. And I remember seeing a chart that showed that the total savings, I mean, granted, we like to talk about general fund savings, but the savings in dedicated funds are real savings for the state of Minnesota. And we actually saved a couple $1 million total more than was booked, even if we pay back the $300,000 for the people that we took away their coverage, even though they really were eligible for it. My point is, if we pay that $300,000 back, like the chair of this committee did in an amendment in a bill that I have and Representative Schoen has, that we've been working with you, this and Representative Clark's bill altogether wouldn't even amount to the savings that were in that audit, which was a great thing to do to make sure that we had people correctly. But, Mr. Chair, my point is I think that pot of money is adequate to cover both your amendment and Representative Clark's bill.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we see no other hands up. Why don't we talk a little bit about the revenue then for marriage licenses? That would be the other part of the note.
Sure. Mr. Chair and members, my name is Michelle Weber. I'm the Director of Budget Operations at Minnesota Management and Budget. And so the MMB portion of the fiscal note also includes assumptions around an increase in the number of marriage license issued. The primary increase occurs in fiscal year 14, which results in increased revenue to the general fund of $190,000. And then in fiscal year 15 and beyond, the rate at which the marriage license increase, it significantly declines after that time. And so then that would have a $9,800 positive impact on the general fund.
Okay, and are there any questions on that part of the fiscal note? Representative Lund.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so would the distribution of the marriage license fees continue in the same way they are now, or are there any changes to those programs proposed?
Mr. Chair and Representative Bloom, there are no changes that I'm aware of. They would continue.
Thank you.
Any further discussion then? Well, seeing none then, Representative Clark renews her motion that House File 1054, first engrossment, be recommended to pass and placed on the general register. Any further discussion? Seeing none then, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And that's all the business before us today, so the meeting is adjourned.